that with Elon Musk and Twitter, talking about how wealth equals intelligence and capability and all that stuff. I think Elon Musk has proved that's not entirely the case here. So I don't know if you've been following the Twitter stuff very much, or
Only minimally.
okay,
Only minimally.
okay. So you're gonna like this. So the recent news was they just reinstated Trump's Twitter account, so we can look forward to that again for the next election cycle. So recently, I mean, so here's sort of the nuts and bolts of what happened. I don't know what Elon Musk's intention was behind Twitter, behind buying Twitter. It could have been that he thought he could turn it around or make more money off of it than they were. Um, okay, so we had a little technical issue there. It's fixed now. So we're back.
And we're back.
Nobody died. Thank God.
All right, so let's talk about the Twitterverse.
Okay, so the Twitter thing. So I wanted to give a simple sort of example on how these sort of business transactions work for people who've never owned or bought a business. Um, I've done it with smaller businesses, not with anything this size, right? So this has got a lot more moving parts to it. So I'm going to just ultra simplify this. Let's say Alacius has her own little tech company and she's making, $1 million a year gross, but after expenses, taxes, employees, all that stuff, she's probably taking home, gross or net profit, right? Her profit is probably about 100,000 a year. Okay. And that'll grow a little bit over time. But let's say over 10 years, we assume that'll grow some. So she'll make at least $1 million, but probably like $1.5 million over 10 years from that business. Okay. I see that business, I want it. Whatever reason, I think I can do better, whatever. I have more resources. So I come to Lacey's and I say, all right, I want to buy your business. Now, what I would do is I would go, okay, I think it's worth $1.5 million to you over this time period. I would try to back it up to, what's that worth in today's dollars? And I would offer her something like, I'll offer you, it's worth whatever, say 600,000 in today's dollars. I'll offer you 750, something like that. Or I'll offer 600, whatever it is. Lacey still didn't say, oh, well, I'm willing to sell, but I want $1 million or whatever. We'd negotiate. Let's say we settle on $1 million, right? The next thing that would occur is, we'd have a letter of intent and all that jazz, but we'd have a contract. So Alacius and I agree to sell the business. She's going to want a contract. I'm going to want a contract. And the contract is going to say something like, I agree to buy the business for $1 million if you do all these things, so I can check out that it's legit and all these things come true, right? And so Alacius would have to provide me with taxes and books and all this stuff. Compliance and employee stuff, whatever it is, that I want to know. And if she does everything on her end, I buy the business and it's done for the most part. I'm ultra simplifying this, but that's pretty much the process, right? Now, let's say Alacius doesn't keep up her end, doesn't give me that stuff. Well, then I'm going to back out of the deal, right? If she does do all that, though, and it does turn out that the business meets all the standards in the contract, and I say, well, I changed my mind. I don't want it. Alacius can now sue me in court and force me to buy the business for $1 million. This is essentially what happened to Elon Musk. Now, I don't know if he did this because he thought he could do better or he just wanted the publicity of saying, hey, I'm going to buy Twitter, because he's done that before with other stuff. But he comes in and the initial offer, and it was the final offer, was around $44 billion. It's a lot of money. And he's offered it to Twitter. Now, Twitter, in this example, I'll be Elon, and Alacius will be Twitter. At least it's your Twitter. You're the board of directors of Twitter. The last 12 years, 10 of those years, you've lost money. You are not in a successful, profiting business. And I show up and go, I'll offer you $44 billion for your company. Alacius is going to pretend like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do it. And then she's going to say, okay, well, I probably can do something like that. And then she's going to immediately want me to sign the. God damn it! I'm going to have to do this. We're going to have to do this by hand. Sorry, I'll leave that part in. We've been having technical problems with our other computer. Anyway, so she's going to immediately go, okay, but I want a contract right now. Right? And I'm going to be like,
signy.
Right. I want an agreement. And Musk signed the agreement. Right? That I'll buy it if you do all these things. Well, then what he did for months was he was like, oh, well, you didn't do this. You didn't complete this. And da 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 da. When in fact, Twitter was doing everything. They actually went over and above what was in the contract. Why? Because they want $44 billion. Right? They're selling a lemon for, how much more than it's worth. I mean, God, why wouldn't you take 44 billion? You'd be stupid. Well, what ended up happening was Elon tried to back out, and they basically started legal action against him, and he pretty much caved in. Right? So there's a lot of issues going on with that whole situation where he's now in charge of Twitter. Twitter's hemorrhaging money to the tune of, I think it's like 120 million a year just on that, plus what he owes. He just doesn't, he's worth hundreds of billions, but he doesn't have it liquid. So he's to liquefy a lot of stuff to pay things. He's in the hole. He announced that he thinks Twitter might go bankrupt here in the next few months because they're hemorrhaging money so quickly. The other problem was when he got there, he immediately fired half the staff. So the 7,500 employees that are there, he fired 3,750 of them around that, right? Then recently what he did was he said, well, I want you guys to go harder and work harder and do 70, 80-hour weeks and stuff like this. That didn't float, so people walked out. And now he's in really deep trouble. So I'm going to do this real quick. We'll go back to, where is it? Okay. So this is Anna Kasparian with the Young Turks. And they're just going to cover kind of just what I just said, but it's kind of funny. Oh, whoops. Let me get her sound.
Oh, I was kind of joking and with Musk making all sorts of bad decisions and how giddy I was about the destruction of Twitter, but I didn't really believe it until now. So apparently, remember, Musk gave his employees, whatever remains of the employees at Twitter, an ultimatum. Either you have to agree to be hardcore and work 80 hours a week, or you got to leave and you'll get paid 3 months severance. Well, it turns out that roughly 75% of the remaining 3,700 Twitter employees have not opted to be more hardcore, and they've decided to take the severance. So,
wow.
Twitter doesn't have the workforce necessary, the employees necessary to run. Duncan, everybody's situation is different, but if I were one of those employees at Twitter, I think I probably would have taken the severance too, provided, if I had a bit of an emergency savings sitting there and maybe I'm thinking I can just find another job, just as easily, or maybe I was already wanting to do something different. I think rather than be more hardcore, aka take on more than one full-time job for your full-time pay, right?
Right.
I think I would probably just do what most of their workforce did and take the severance.
Well, a lot of these people are computer engineers. It's not like they can't find another job. I mean, that's one of the most.
Or something in tech. There's so many.
There's so much demand.
Tech-related jobs they can do.
There's so much demand for tech. And tech people, if you know anybody who's worked in tech, like my other business partner works in tech. He's never had a problem. And people always get on, they always switch jobs. They never stay at the same. Yeah, because they can. They can always take more money or get less hours or whatever they want. They have negotiating ability, right?
Really, it just makes me wonder what he was thinking. Like, I believe Elon Musk to be intelligent, and I would assume, what would he be thinking to? I feel like when he offered that 3-month severance, he really did not believe that many people would take it. I'm sure he believed some people would take it, but I'm assuming that he probably did not think that many people would take it. He probably thought that people would be
I think
afraid and want to keep their jobs.
I think he did a really good job marketing the idea of the electric car and Tesla. That's what I think he did really good at. Running Tesla, he didn't really. He had other people that were actually running the production, the day to day, the finances. But in the marketing sector, I think he's really good at marketing these things. The problem is Twitter is basically a big software company, but it's a giant house of cards. You have to have engineers constantly monitoring the system and making sure it doesn't crash or people aren't abusing it or it's not going to get hacked, because there's going to be people that want to hack Twitter. Can you look at how many people are on there, how much information is on there? Yeah, it's a hacker's dream, right? It's a gold mine. So you need a lot of people. So you got to understand, from the 7,500 employees they started out with a couple months ago when he took over, whatever it was, a month or two ago, it hasn't even been that long, right? They are now down to less than 1,000 employees. From 7,500 people running that company to less than 1,000. So when she says they don't have enough people, they don't have enough people. I'm surprised they still have 1,000. Plus, you got to figure.
And for how long?
Plus, the other thing people forget is when you do those kind of big layoffs where you push people in severance like that, you're going to take a beating in unemployment. You're going to take a beating in wrongful termination, lawsuits. I mean, you're going to get eaten alive. You're going to spend, in this case, with that many people, probably billions in court over the next 2 or 3 years.
Not to mention the need to hire up again and the cost involved in training new employees. It's expensive to train new employees, and people don't think about that. So
and it's time
that's
consuming.
why employee retention
is such a big thing.
Regardless of what type of company, it really is a big thing, trying to, make turnover margins as small as possible, just for the bottom line involved in the resources it takes to train people to do the job.
Right. So just to go back to the kind of our whole thing about Elon Musk, his father owned I think the biggest emerald mine, or the second biggest emerald mine in apartheid South Africa. So he basically had African serfs digging his mines for him. That's how he made all his money. And then Elon makes his money through Tesla and whatnot, but he gets a contract under when Obama was president, which is how Tesla thrived, because Tesla was going under. And it was actually floated by taxpayer money to develop electric cars and car batteries. It wasn't because they were selling a ton of stuff. He was just really good at getting the money in grants. And that's how Tesla floated itself for a long time. But even Tesla doesn't make a ton of money. They do good, but they don't make a ton of money. Right? So this idea that he's, because he's wealthy equals he's some great businessman is not, the proof is not in the pudding on this one. Is kind of my point. Because he walks into Twitter and basically overpays for a company that's bleeding cash, right? By a lot. Now the company has added 13 billion of debt on top of that, right? Since he took over, and we're talking a couple months, right? The interest cost is $1 billion a year for Twitter. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money
for credit risk, and the cash flows, the amount of money Twitter makes, doesn't cover that. So if Elon Musk wants to keep this going, he's either going to have to pay for it out of his own pocket to keep the business going, or he's going to have to bankrupt or do something. So it's really kind of a dire situation right now for Twitter. I'm not saying they're going to go under. They probably won't, but it's not good. It is not good. So we're going to do that that'll wrap up our segment for now on being rich does not necessarily make you a better person or more capable.
And we'll all stay tuned to see whether or not he can pull Twitter out of the dire situation they're currently in.
Right.
I'm hoping that they can turn it around, but
gosh, so do I.
I mean, we'll be watching. I'm definitely rooting for them, but it doesn't look great.
No, it's not looking good right now.
And I would hate to be one of the just imagine how many people's jobs you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, you probably sit there thinking to yourself right now, do I stay? Do I go? Do I look for something else? I'll bet you everybody's 1 foot out the door at this point. It's probably,
I'm sure because they probably don't feel terribly secure. I mean,
yeah, what are you going to do?